Just released from prison, Kris immediately wants to meet his daughter. However, the shady cab driver who is supposed to take him across the border plans to pull a trick for free gain. Not only him, the driver is also with his accomplices. Clearly, they have carried out this kind of thing many times before. He bends down to pick up his luggage, searches the driver's pocket, and takes the car keys. That way, he no longer has to walk. He enters the city where his daughter is hiding and quietly observes from outside a villa. Not long after, the car carrying Elisa, the daughter of Boss Vicente, leaves that place. Once the other party has gone far, Kris immediately follows. He chases until they reach the main road. When stopping at a red light, he spots a beggar wiping car windows for someone else and suddenly gets an idea. So at the next intersection, when the car stops, he pretends to be a beggar and approaches to wipe the other party's windows in a professional manner. The bodyguard in the car keeps signaling refusal, but Kris pretends not to see and continues the task. When finished, he knocks on the window and demands payment from the bodyguard. Seeing the other party does not react, he smashes the side mirror. The bodyguard immediately gets out of the car to confront him, while Elisa seizes the chance to open the door and escape. After subduing the bodyguard, Kris quickly drives their car to chase after her. In just a moment, he blocks the girl. Elisa panics and turns to run back the other way in confusion. Kris chases, catches her, and stuffs her into the trunk. He speeds off right before the bodyguards can appear. When he learns his daughter has been kidnapped, Vicente flies into a rage. He cannot believe anyone would dare do something so bold, but the vague description of the kidnapper from the bodyguard only makes him angrier, and he does not hesitate to beat the man with a stick. Vicente immediately orders a reward posted to find clues about his daughter. However, he has no idea that Kris is driving Elisa out of the city. On the road, Elisa keeps pounding on the trunk. Reluctantly, Kris has to stop and open the trunk to warn the girl. Unexpectedly, the moment he opens it, she seizes the opportunity to run. The two chase each other until they go deep into the forest. Kris explains that he means no harm and only wants to talk. To prove it, he pulls out a photo taken together with Elisa's parents. Seeing the photo, Elisa is utterly shocked. She cannot believe someone connected to her parents would treat her this way. Kris says he has no other choice. Her mother asked him to come pick her up. She passed away 5 years ago. The mother instructed him that if anything happened, he should find the girl and take her far away from Vicente. No matter how much Kris says, Elisa does not lower her guard at all. With no other way, he pulls out a gun and hands it to the girl as a sign of trust. But Elisa does not believe the gun is loaded and even challenges him to try shooting. As soon as she gets in the car, she immediately changes her mind and demands that Kris turn around and take her back, or she will pull the trigger. Kris is certain he will not comply and does not think Elisa dares to squeeze the trigger. But this time he is wrong. She really pulls it, and luckily the gun is out of bullets. Only the meaningless click of the hammer sounds. He turns around and shouts loudly, while Elisa refuses to back down and shouts back. In the cramped space of the car, the smell of gunpowder immediately spreads. Right at that moment, the car signals it is almost out of fuel. Kris angrily punches the steering wheel hard. When he gets out to refuel, Elisa looks toward a group of people fixing a car nearby. Taking advantage of Kris's momentary distraction, she opens the door and runs out, shouting for help as she goes. Kris chases after her and is immediately surrounded by the crowd. Elisa runs to a public phone booth and tries to call her father for rescue. Kris tries to explain, but no one believes him. A fight quickly breaks out. By the time he knocks everyone down, Elisa has already contacted Vicente. But right as he prepares to ask for her location, Kris cuts the call short. Elisa is put back in the car to prevent further trouble, and Kris even ties her hands. Even so, she still refuses to stay quiet. Kris warns that if she does not behave, he will lock her in the trunk again. "Who are you to boss me around?" Kris says that he is actually her biological father. That statement makes Elisa freeze. Though not fully convinced, throughout the journey, no matter how much she resists, he has not harmed her at all. Maybe what he says is true. He takes her to a restaurant, and for the rare occasion Elisa does not resist. Meanwhile, Vicente knows his daughter is still alive but has no clues whatsoever. He is burning with impatience, but he has no idea that his assistant has secretly leaked information to the assassin El Corvo. Years ago, for some reason Vicente had caused El Corvo severe injury, even the loss of one arm. Since then, the two have become mortal enemies. Coincidentally, the assistant wants to overthrow Vicente and take the top position. So he plans to use this opportunity to let El Corvo kidnap Elisa in order to destroy Vicente, then clear the path for himself to seize power. It is truly a meticulously calculated plan. During the meal, Elisa asks Kris, "If you are my father, where have you been all these years?" Kris is a little flustered but finally admits that he has been in prison. When Elisa asks why, he does not answer and instead looks at the diamond necklace around her neck. It is the gift he once gave her mother on her birthday years ago. Mentioning her mother immediately brings waves of longing to Elisa's heart. She does not understand why her mother committed suicide, but Kris insists it was not that. He believes her mother was most likely harmed by Vicente. Unexpectedly, those words make Elisa furious. She believes Kris is lying and that Vicente could not do such a thing. But right then, the sound of a gun being cocked rings out nearby. An armed group appears, all for Vicente's reward money. While Kris is fighting the thugs, Elisa is dragged outside to stop him from pursuing. They shoot out the tires of his car. By the time Kris rushes out, the other side has already left. He is so angry that he throws the car keys hard onto the ground. Not long after, they bring Elisa to the territory of a minor gang boss. After handing Elisa over to him, they receive a generous sum of money. Once that group leaves, Bona reports to Vicente that he has found Elisa and hands the phone to the girl. After confirming his daughter is safe, Vicente tells him to wait for him to arrive immediately. But Elisa is in no hurry and even asks Vicente if he had anything to do with her mother's death. That question leaves Vicente stunned, but after a brief thought, he still denies it. He says that for her mother, he did everything he could, but he does not understand why she still took her own life. Elisa is about to ask more when a gunshot sounds right by her ear. After checking the camera, Bona discovers someone is slaughtering his men, clearly wanting to keep the ransom money for himself and hide Elisa. That person is the deranged assassin El Corvo. Even though he has lost one arm, his combat ability has not diminished but has become even more terrifying than before. He kills like mowing grass, without the slightest hesitation. Dozens of Bona's men cannot stand against him. Terrified, Bona runs back to his room to call for help, but is knocked unconscious by Elisa using a decorative object. Outside, Bona's men have been almost completely slaughtered by El Corvo and cannot organize any counterattack. Elisa picks up Bona's gun and prepares to attack from behind but is unfortunately spotted. As El Corvo prepares to grab her, Kris arrives just in time. The two say nothing and immediately engage in combat. He intends to finish Kris but turns to chase Elisa instead. The girl runs up to the rooftop and realizes there is no escape ahead. Just as El Corvo closes in and it seems there is no way out, Kris suddenly charges and slams hard, causing both of them to crash through the glass and fall onto the roof of a car below. As soon as they stand up, they come under a hail of bullets from Bona. Bullets fly thickly, sparks fly everywhere, accompanied by a piercing sound. Kris risks his life leaping out the window to avoid the gunfire. Bona turns to shoot El Corvo but quickly runs out of bullets. El Corvo advances, removes his prosthetic arm to reveal a sharp blade, then slashes Bona's artery before coldly walking away. Thanks to the collision earlier, Elisa and Kris have a chance to survive. The two keep running to escape. But not long after, Vicente arrives with his men, still one step too late. Bodies lie scattered everywhere, all taken down with a single lethal blow. Through the surveillance screen, Vicente recognizes El Corvo and his old nightmare resurfaces clearly. Now rescuing his daughter has become many times more difficult. After escaping, Kris tries to recount the past with Elisa's mother, but every time Vicente is mentioned, the two argue. Elisa still believes her mother's death has nothing to do with Vicente. Even though Kris insists that his 15 years in prison were caused by him, Kris understands that to convince Elisa, he needs proof. On the road, he recounts the past of the three of them. Back then, they were very close and worked well together in bank robberies and artifact thefts without ever failing. But when they learned Elisa was about to be born, Kris panicked. They had no savings because they lived extravagantly, so they decided to do one last job and then retire. The plan went smoothly, and the money earned was enough to live on for a lifetime. Elisa asks why Kris was caught. He replies that it was because Vicente set a trap, deliberately leaving clues that led to his house, causing him to be arrested and serve 15 years in prison. Kris bitterly adds that Elisa's mother also turned her back on him. But that still does not prove Vicente killed her mother. Even now, Elisa still believes Vicente is innocent. The conversation ends in tension. Not long after, El Corvo wakes up next to the car that collided with him. He follows the trail to a nearby restroom. Though the wound on his forehead is not fatal, it is torn wide open. He calmly sews it shut with needle and thread, his face cold as if repairing a machine. That calmness is even more frightening than the bleeding wound. Just as he leaves the restroom, he hears two thugs in a nearby car talking about him. El Corvo does not get angry. He simply walks over quietly. The two have no idea they are facing death and even get out of the car to provoke him. El Corvo easily takes their car and continues hunting Kris and Elisa throughout the night. Meanwhile, Kris, to protect Elisa, steals a car and plans to take her to America to take refuge at his sister's house. Though life will be harder, at least they will stay alive. However, Elisa firmly refuses. She has school, friends, and dreams here. Moreover, Vicente has always treated her well, so she does not want to leave. She even accuses Kris of planning to abandon her like an irresponsible father. Kris does not know how to respond and feels both worried and helpless. Right then, the car's owner returns. Despite the obstruction, Elisa jumps out of the car. Kris is pointing his gun at the owner and does not notice she has slipped into the vehicle. As soon as Kris drives the owner away, Elisa immediately drives off. In his confusion, he sees a car approaching. He tries to block it, but the driver does not stop. While dodging, Kris senses something unusual about the other party. Meanwhile, after leaving Kris far behind, Elisa stops the car on the roadside to call Vicente. She also sees a yellow car drive past but pays no attention. Only when she clearly sees the person inside does she panic. Elisa immediately runs, while El Corvo chases right behind. She finds a tool to set an ambush but fails completely. A young girl cannot stand against this cold-blooded killer. El Corvo has a strange habit. Before killing a target, he always gives them an apple. This time is the same. Elisa gathers all her courage, takes it, and bites hard. El Corvo watches with amusement, but right after, Elisa's face changes color and she runs wildly. At that moment, she hears Kris calling her as if finding hope for survival. But when she meets Kris, El Corvo also appears behind her. But when he stands up, Elisa has been taken hostage. With no advantage left, Kris is forced to drop his weapon. Without guns, they are completely at the mercy of the other side. El Corvo ties Elisa to the car and then ties Kris as well before beating him unconscious. He wants to know who has been constantly interfering with him. When asked, Elisa insists Kris is her biological father, surprising him. After looking at Kris, he immediately knocks him out. When Kris wakes up, he has been hung from a large tree in front of a church. Not long after, Vicente appears, clearly summoned by El Corvo. The two who were once close are now enemies. Vicente intends to kill Kris but changes his mind, thinking he still has value. He orders him lowered. On the way back, Vicente receives a call from El Corvo demanding he come to the place where his arm was cut off, where Elisa is being held. He also reminds Vicente to thank his assistant. Hearing that, Vicente immediately shoots the betraying assistant dead. He has never shown mercy to traitors. Kris asks about their grudge, and Vicente recounts that years ago he hired El Corvo for a job, but the man went beyond the limits and put him in danger. After that, Vicente sent 15 elite men to hunt him down, but all died while El Corvo only lost one arm. Now, he has become the nightmare of the assassin world. After listening, Kris grows even quieter. Not long after, they reach the appointed location. Vicente splits his men to search while he sneaks into the abandoned factory alone. His men are quickly eliminated, leaving only screams that then fall silent. Vicente follows the sounds and discovers bodies hanging in the air. As he lowers one body, El Corvo's blade is already at his throat. He forces Vicente to the place where Elisa is held. Father and daughter reunite with deep emotion. But Vicente quickly notices that Elisa's wrist is chained tightly with a sharp saw beside it. El Corvo activates the mechanism so the chain tightens gradually. Elisa's cries draw Kris's attention but also reveal his position. El Corvo immediately opens fire and a chaotic battle erupts. In the struggle, Vicente climbs onto the conveyor belt, trying to shut it down to save his daughter. However, as he gets closer, he realizes the end of the conveyor is a giant crusher. He panics and frantically presses every switch but gets no response. The machine keeps running normally. He then finds an iron bar to wedge into the machine, but it is useless. In desperation, he is forced to pick up the saw, intending to cut off his daughter's arm to save her life. But after many hesitations, he still cannot bring himself to do it. On the other side, the fight between Kris and El Corvo grows fiercer. Kris is agile but cannot withstand the opponent's steel punches. You think Vicente killed the girl's mother? Actually, he hired me to make her disappear, and I took the chance to have some fun. Hearing that, Kris grows even more furious and strikes harder and more brutally. The anger makes him abandon all defense, attacking recklessly even when hit. The two fight with everything they have, each move aimed at a vital point. Kris is impatient, kicks hard to push the opponent back, then rushes toward Elisa again, but El Corvo still follows without letting go. When Kris reaches the spot, Elisa's body has already been pulled by the chain to the edge of the crusher. In that life or death moment, El Corvo also arrives. Kris is forced to keep fighting. The sharp blade stabs straight into his stomach. Elisa screams in despair. El Corvo turns to control Vicente, pressing the blade to his throat. He forces Vicente to tell the truth in front of Elisa, in exchange for the way to stop the machine. Before the cold blade, Vicente trembles and apologizes to his daughter, explaining that he had to stop her mother. Finally, in a bitter confession, Vicente admits he paid El Corvo to kill her mother. The confession fills Elisa's eyes with despair. Seeing the machine about to swallow her, El Corvo says the switch is on the first floor, but time has run out. At the critical moment, the hard diamond cuts through the chain. Elisa escapes danger by a hair's breadth. Seeing that, El Corvo flies into a rage, punches Vicente to the ground, then grabs Elisa, intending to push her into the crusher. Seeing the scene, Kris struggles to his feet despite the pain and charges to stop it. Vicente slashes the saw across his neck. Enraged, El Corvo counters and pulls both of them down with him. The two fall hard to the ground, their fate unclear. Seeing Kris, covered in wounds, still worrying about her, Elisa finally opens her heart and reveals her deepest feelings. In that moment, she realizes this man has put his own life aside to protect her. At the end of the story, Elisa and Kris visit their mother's grave at the cemetery. Though severely injured, Kris miraculously survives. Perhaps fate does not want them to reunite only to be separated again.